I'm Stephanie Weber, the Executive Director of Suicide Prevention Services of America, and I'm here today to talk to you about my agency. I'd like to start out by saying that first and foremost, what got me going into this field was that I am the survivor of the suicide of my mom in 1979. At that time, there were no services for survivors of loss, and I found myself volunteering for a hotline. I found myself going to suicide conferences and generally reaching out to the area to see what was there and what would be helpful. In 1982, I was able to start, along with 7 other women, Survivors of Suicide Loss Group that came out of a conference that I chaired at what was then Aurora College. In 1984, came the crisis line of the Fox Valley. So a group of us had worked for those 2 years between 82 and 84 to make a 24/7 hotline a reality. And that went on for many years. There came a point at which there needed to be more education and training, and the agency that I was with and started the hotline with did not want me to do any more in that area. So working again with survivors of loss, doing community forums, we established the need for training and education and started suicide prevention services in 1998. So actually I had worked backwards. Postvention, survivors of loss; intervention, 24/7 hotline; prevention, training and education. Our agency has grown from myself working part-time and another part-time licensed clinician to where we are today, 22 years later, with 5 licensed clinicians, a part-time administrative assistant, and many hotline volunteers. One of the things I would like to talk about is our 24/7 hotline. We are part of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Today, in these times with COVID-19, there are a lot of bad things that are going on in people's life. But one of the good things that is coming out of this is that people are looking around for ways to help, ways to volunteer. And so they go online and they find my agency and they decide that what they want to train to become a paraprofessional hotline volunteer. That's one way of helping. Another way is to become a board member. In our times that we struggle with today, up until now, we have had school contracts. I guess we still do have school contracts, but they will look different this year. And that means that a child in need who is depressed, anxious, or suicidal will go to their school social worker who will do a brief assessment. She will then call Suicide Prevention Services, and one of our clinicians goes out within a few hours to meet with the student, establish rapport, decide what needs to be done, and generally then sees that student at least once a week in the schools. We also have clients here at the agency. We have people that are so desperate they come to our front door and ring the bell asking for help. Each clinician here carries a caseload of clients. Another group that I started here over 10 years ago is survivors of suicide attempts. Seems to me that people who have attempted to take their life and lived, people have turned their backs on them. And it occurred to me at one point my mom had had one single prior suicide attempt before the second one that took her life. So I took this to my national conference and said, I think we need to turn our attention to survivors of attempts and what they need. And the groups have been so fulfilling as far as people sharing families that have turned their backs on them, loss of jobs after a suicide attempt, and generally supporting and helping each other with names of clinicians or how different medications affect them. But they have really become a team. So I'm here today to give you this information and background and history of the agency and to ask you, what are you able to do to help suicide prevention services that will lessen the pain in your community? Thank you.